FSF Popcast live show.
Well, hello, kids and cadets. Welcome to the FSF Popcast. Wow, there's a lot of Kathleen in the comments tonight already.
Yeah.
Oh
She's
boy,
like
my favorite night of the week. It's almost time to be a menace unless I get bored waiting for you. Getting bored. It's 7 p.m. You're late again. We weren't late. It's not 7:01. Therefore, it's not 7:01 now, but it wasn't 7:01 when we started. So therefore, not late. And apparently John had to pee.
I also had to find my ducky shirt.
Well, I mean, you do have a reputation to keep up at this point.
I do. I can't just wear boring t-shirts all the time. I have to spice it up a little bit.
We must go ducky. And yes, there are finally Funkos back behind me again. So I have moved my office out to my garage at home and slowly but surely building up my office here. And yeah, it's kind of nice to have a nerd space again. So
this is your new evil lair, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Rudy lair, evil lair, whatever.
Lair.
Room where you don't wear pants.
It was right where I left it after I borrowed it.
Yes, Kathleen did borrow the ducky shirt the other day.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't know what she's talking about, but okay. So, so welcome to the FSF Popcast. This is our sidebar episode. Every Thursday night, John and I, not every Thursday night, but especially during specialty shows like this, we try to make sure that we come on live. We talk about what happened Tuesday night. Tonight, we're talking about what happened Tuesday night on Andor. We're in season 2, and tonight we'll be talking about episodes 4 through 6. So this is your reminder right here, right now. We are going to be talking about things that aired on Tuesday night. If you haven't watched it yet, there will be spoilers. We are going to talk about things that happened on air. So we invite you to stick around if you're cool with spoilers, but we also don't want you to be surprised and think, well, golly shucks, I wish they would have told me there were spoilers. Because, hey, there's spoilers. So,
yeah. So, Tim, when you watch the show, do you watch it all in one sitting?
Yes.
Okay, so you get kind of like a movie experience with it then.
Right. And the reason I did that is because when I was reading, or the reason I am doing that is because I read an interview with Tony Gilroy, the showrunner and writer, and he specifically wrote Andor season 2 to feel like, I can't remember how many episodes we have, whether it's 12 or 15, but like 4 to 5 movies.
Yeah.
He wants it to feel like individual movie sets going into this one leads up to this one, to this, to that one, to that one, to that one, which all leads up to, of course, to Rogue One. So, yeah, so I sit down and I watch them all.
Okay.
But I don't usually go to bed till midnight, 1 o'clock anyway.
Yeah.
So,
right. My schedule has not been allowing me to do that the last couple of weeks. I've been watching like the first episode Tuesday night, and then the second one on Wednesday, and then scrambling to get the third one in before we talk about it tonight.
Typically, Early gets to watch it in about 20-minute chunks.
Dad, can you pause the show?
Yeah,
hey, John,
I get that.
Can you pause the show?
Yeah, that's the joy of being John. John is amazing. He's a good dad, a good husband, and so he's taking care of his family.
As frustrating as those interruptions can be, I would miss them so much if they didn't happen.
Exactly.
I love those people. Those people are the reason I wake up in the morning.
Well, there's that and bourbon, but yeah. So
we'll talk about that later.
That's a whole different discussion. Really before we get too much farther, we just want to real quick say thank you to our show partners, because without our show partners, this show doesn't happen. Shut up! I was moving past it. You can too.
No, I can't.
Yes, you can. It was a choice. You made a choice. Okay. But we want to say thank you to our show partners, because without them and without you, our viewers, this show doesn't happen. So thank you to Bones Coffee Company. Thank you to Idea Farm. And of course, thank you to our longest running show partner, Level Up Savers, which is why, of course, we have the Level Up Savers studio, because, well, that and Master Allen's pretty freaking awesome. Mm-hmm. So all those show partners have links down in the show notes down below. You can get 15% off your order at Idea Farm, 10% off your order at Bones Coffee, and you can get a really cool lightsaber that is guaranteed to be better than a stick at Level Up Savers. So,
yep. So, Tim, anything you can move past, I can move slower.
I know
I can move slower past anything than you.
Okay.
Sorry, I did that for Kathleen's benefit because now she's got a song stuck in her head and she's gonna be mad at me for the next 45 minutes.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Anything you can move, I can move slower. I can move slower than yeah. Anyway, okay. The reason you wake up in the morning like 2 a.m. and the reason you fight for 45 minutes, everyone get out of bed. No, I don't. I refuse. Yes, you. You'll get stuck in your head. Anyway, if you want to follow this monstrosity of craziness, please check us out on Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere but that abomination known as the Dead Bird app or X, Twitter, whatever it's still called.
It's just Twitter. It's just Twitter.
So, but yeah, we're on all social medias except for that one. But you can find us at FSF Podcast. That's our handle everywhere, except for that one abomination. Before we get too much farther into the this week's episode, I want to give credit where credit is due, and I want to give Disney Studios, Lucasfilms, Star Wars credit for recognizing a very big thing that happened in episode 1 through 3 of Andor. First off, I found this collage today. This is super cool. I don't know who did this, but kudos to them. This is fantastic. And I will be stealing this in perpetuity. So, but here's the thing. This dance sequence with Mon Mothma at the end of week 1's episodes, showing her just, she's fighting, all this stuff, and she just finally lets go, and she's a little drunk too. She was definitely, she was a wee bit tipsy.
Stuff was rough. Got it.
Yeah. Yeah. She was enjoying the beverage service at her daughter's wedding. And yeah. So I think for me that, it's really interesting that on YouTube, the Star Wars channel has released an hour-long version of that dance sequence and the music. And it's just really cool. And I played it yesterday at the office. I was sitting there listening to it. I've listened to it a little bit today. It's just a really cool, if you like techno EDM type stuff, something you can play in the background that's not overpowering, but kind of gets you a little jazzed, a little, Eye of the Tiger going. It's good times. It's good stuff. But kudos to Star Wars and Disney for showing how people handle different traumas and anxiety and potential breakdowns. This is one way. We're also going to talk about another way, a little bit that we see exercised in the videos, because there's right ways, there's wrong ways, and it all depends on what's going on in your situation. But we'll clarify that a little more as we get through. So, yeah. All right, let's get into it. We have Cyril walking down the road in Gorman. And by the way, tonight's slides and what we're going to be talking about, we're going to kind of jump because it's set like a movie for episodes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All these things are going to be set like a movie. Our slides aren't necessarily in episode order. They're in order in which I thought it made sense to talk about them. I hope
Stream of consciousness. Let's go with it.
Hopefully that makes sense to somebody. So,
Shane,
all right.
We need help.
Shayna gave up on that a long time ago. She's like, yeah, you're on your own. So we see Cyril in Gorman. Now when we first started the episode, I thought, oh, is this like a flashback episode to Ferrix or things that everything kind of going on there.
Right.
And no, he's on Gorman, and that's where the spiders are, and we see him going to the Gorman office every day. The Gorman standards or some standards and practices offices or something like that.
Yeah. The Empire is trying to regulate business everywhere, so they know what's going on. And so, yeah, he's just there to oversee the bookkeeping to make sure there's no discrepancies.
Right. But we come to find out pretty quickly that it's a ruse.
Mm-hmm.
And he is there on the behest of the Empire, the ISB in particular. Yep. And he is undercover and doing for Cyril. I honestly, once I figured out that he was undercover, I was like, well, that's a pretty bold choice, picking somebody as nervous as Cyril to do all that. But his character is actually pulling it off pretty well. Mm-hmm. And the reason why we know that this is happening is because the Gorman front, which I'm sorry, Um, all I thought of was Monty Python, Life of Brian, because they kept saying the Gorman front, Gorman front, Gorman front. And I'm like, the people's front of Judea. Anyway,
just no.
I want to have a baby. Anyway, yeah, go watch Life of Brian, kids, if you haven't. That should be as a must watch for anybody. But yeah, so we find out that the Gorman front has bugged everything in Cyril's office. They're listening in. They think that he's the right pick, that he's going to be sympathetic to their cause, and they decide to approach him and talk with him.
And they even do a good job of like trying to spin it with well, no, you'd actually be helping the Empire this way. The Emperor would be proud of you, not realizing that they're just doing exactly what Dedra wants them to do by approaching him, which I really liked how that wasn't handed to us right away. We had to wait to learn what was actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
Andor is one of those shows where you can't be scrolling on your phone while you're watching it.
No, you better be paying attention. And in all honesty, there's something that I have to go back and watch.
Yeah,
because I was, as I was looking through the notes for slides and things today, I found an image, and I have to go back and see if it's actually in the show because I don't remember it.
Okay.
And yeah, it's I think it's after Cyril's later. We'll get into this a little bit more, but after Cyril's office gets raided by the ISB, and he's in the room with apparently he's in a room with like 6 K2SOs.
No, that was not tonight.
Okay, then that's later.
Yeah.
Then I found an image and I was like, I don't recall this, but so I was like, did I miss something? Normally, I'm watching pretty closely to try and find Easter eggs and other cool talking points.
Yeah, and a lot of the Easter eggs in the show aren't put there by Tony Gilroy. He's not a big Star Wars fan.
No, he's just following up.
Right. But like the people doing the props and the sets and stuff, I mean, they grew up watching Star Wars get made. That's why they make props and sets and costumes. So they're putting these things in for us to enjoy because they enjoy it. But it's just part of the background. Mm-hmm. I love that. It's not like rubbing it in our face. It's you got to pay attention to that thing over there.
Yeah, I think that Gilroy may not be the biggest Star Wars fan, but I think he's a cinema fan. And I think he does a really good job at setting the table and telling a story.
Yep. I actually want to come back to that later, but let's talk about the actual show for a little bit.
Okay, fine. Take all my fun away.
No. This is going to be fun. Trust me.
Okay.
I'm trusting. About this, but this is going to be fun.
I'm trusting. We did not talk about this. So yes, I'm curious. Inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah.
So we see this big meeting of the People's Front of Judea. This is later on in the episode. So
okay. Yeah.
I do have this one a little bit backwards because this is actually the second time that Luthen's people come to meet with the Gorman front. Because the first time, this is with Val and
Cinta.
Cinta. Thank you. I could not remember her name. So Val and Cinta are there to help run it because they're kind of the smart people on the ground. They know what they're doing. They're trying to get them, up to speed. Luthen recognizes that something has to happen, but Cassian came there as this really pretty boy. He was a fashion designer that was his ruse. That was his undercover. And
Sky.
Yeah, Valorant Sky.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, so he was there as Valorant Sky and talking to the people, the People's Front of Gorman. And we are not the People's Front of Gorman. We're the Gorman's People's Front. Anyway, again, go see Life of Brian. You're welcome. So anyway, Cassian decides that this is not something he wants to be involved with. He doesn't think that they're ready, they're able. And I think from what he was seeing and what was going on, his concerns, I think, were very valid.
Yeah.
The things that he was bringing up, and he was just like, yeah, this isn't safe. This isn't a good idea.
Right. you can't take a non-combatant, soft-handed, paper pusher and throw them into a combat situation and think it's going to work. Sorry, Luthen, I think it's a dumb idea.
Right. Well, and the other problem is that these, and because of that, these are people who have never had to take orders. They've never had to follow a certain trajectory of a plan.
Oh yeah.
And
later.
that shows up later big time. And so you can see why he was nervous about it. And so meaning Cassian, Andor, and Luthen get into an argument about it. And then next thing you know, we have this scene here. We have Luthen or Val and Cinta rather there at Luthen's behest to try and help the Gorman front get moving, get motivated so that they can do the things on Gorman to try and free themselves. Because Cassian sees this as a catastrophe. And really the only thing that Luthen sees this is that the planet is in play. And if we get this planet on our side, that's all that matters. And so he has a very distinct and almost a tunnel vision on what's happening and why, I think.
Yeah, because if you can get the moneyed, privileged elites on your side, along with the downtrodden and the poor, then you have that like social crossover, and you can reach more, revolutionaries that way, which is great. One thing I liked about this scene, though, it reminded me of when they were planning the heist in the first season. They just used whatever objects they had, blocks of wood and stuff, to map it out. And they did the same thing here with just what they had on the table. Like, okay, you're going to be here, and that's going to be there, and it's a consistency in how this organization plans.
Consistency in storytelling too, and how it's set up, how it's done. Which again, I'm sure we might get back into this in a few minutes about how well Tony Gilroy does at this throughout the season. So I do have one quizzical point I want to question, because this has to do not with this scene or this scene, but at different times when we see Luthen, he has short hair. Sometimes he has long wavy hair. Now, at first I thought maybe we were seeing Cassian and Luthen on the ship in a flashback, but that certainly wasn't the case, because it was right after he visited Gorman, and he was at, he was Valoran, and now he's on the ship as Cassian, and Luthen has short hair. And then the next thing you know, they're back on Coruscant, and Luthen's talking to his assistant, and he's getting ready for this big party, and he's got the long wavy locks again. And he goes to see Bix. He has the long wavy locks. So I am curious, why do you think we're seeing two different, very distinct hairstyles on Luthen?
They did some pickup filming after the fact, or I don't know.
I want to check it down to something that simple.
Yeah.
But I'm really kind of hoping that they're going to come back and like show him taking off a wig, almost like Scooby-Doo style, and like, ha ha ha, and pull off the mask.
But we don't actually know how much time passes between each episode, each scene, really.
Right.
We know that it's less than a year, because each 3 episodes is a year apart. But I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
I remember kind of noticing it, but then just like paying attention to the scene. So
I did the same thing, but then I was again today while looking at different images from Andor from these last couple episodes, going, wait a tick, why does he have short hair in that episode or in this scene, but he has and this is a really small thing. I mean, I'm not
Wait, you found a flaw in Andor and we're talking about it?
Yeah, I'm not wrecking the ship over a hairstyle, but I'm curious more than anything. So
okay, yeah, let's not turn this into bricks and screws. Okay, it's just a haircut.
Star Wars series sucks. Anyway, yeah.
Oh,
God forbid they have screws on a planet in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah.
Oh,
anyhow.
Anyway, one of the other things I've appreciated about this show is that, like a lot of the things that are coming out from Star Wars right now, we're seeing I would have gotten away with it too if I had not been a few meddling kids. Thank you, Granzer.
Good to see you tonight. Thank you for joining.
Absolutely. And hey, I did get your messages on Facebook. I have not had a chance to really respond other than a couple thumbs up here and there. Granzier, it's been a little crazy around the old homestead and work as of late. So, but I did see them and I did read over them. But so one of the things though that I'm kind of interested in with what we're seeing in Star Wars is not only are we seeing things that is going to tie into something in the future, but we're seeing them tie in classic characters very well. And one of the best ways that they're doing this, and if you have forgotten, by the way, that this dude is crazy, Andor is doing a really good job of showing that Saw Gerrera is outside his right mind. Probably his left mind too, but
he's so far out of his right mind, he's almost come back around to it.
Yeah, that whole scene of and with I think his name is Wilton. Wilmon, that's it.
Yeah.
With being able to steal the Rhydonium and all the variances and they're sitting there and they're turning the thing, they're fixing so you can show all the variables to the one guy. And I love it, just kind of cracked me up because I was like, yep, that's definitely Saw. I mean, you're not leaving until he knows all of them by heart. And he's telling the guy that Wilmon is training, yeah, when we're done, we're just going to kill the kid. We don't need the kid anymore. Right. He's seen too much.
But then, yeah.
And then Saw goes full Saw and like, yeah, no, we're just going to kill you now and keep Wilmon.
Well, yeah, because the other guy was a spy. Or at least Saw thought he was. Saw thought he was at least.
Saw thought he was. We don't have any actual proof that I could see that he was actually a spy from the from the Empire.
But the way the way everybody else is just like, oh, okay, we're gonna follow Saw now and not even question it.
Like no, they just left dead. They just left dead dude on the ground and like walked away. Okay, yeah, we're done here.
That was.
I was like, oh, he is crazy still. Okay,
and they've all been sharing the Rhydonium hookah because holy cow, man.
Ooh. Right, and then they get to that scene where they're doing the Rhydonium and Wilmon's there. He's got the mask on, he's got the goggles on, and he's shaking, he's scared. Yeah, and Saw's just walking up to it like, all right, yeah, let's get that in the system.
Yeah, and then Wilmon takes a big whiff, and he does not look okay after that.
No. He was not on the reservation any longer.
No. He was off on Peyote Ranch then.
Oh yeah, he was well gone.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I just thought it was kind of interesting that every time we're getting to see Saw, unintentional, but that was fun. All right, but every time we're getting him on screen between here, Andor, I think when we see him in Rebels,
Rogue One,
Rogue One, he's a loon.
Oh yeah,
you see that starting in Clone Wars and working its way forward, and it's just nice to see that we're keeping classic character tropes in place, and that we're not changing it just because of oh well, it's a new writer, but that character is set. That's who Saw is, and they're just kind of going with it. And Forrest Whitaker, by the way, plays the crazy man so well.
And he is having so much fun doing it. You can tell he's not just
he's having a good time. He's having a good time.
He's chewing the scenery. He's practically chewing his own armor. It's just he's crazy. And he loves it.
Yeah, he is living in these scenes and he is just doing so very well at it. We do have to mention though, for as much as we have some classic characters on screen, we do have a recast of a classic character. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you noticed it or not. But wow. Bail Organa is no longer played by Jimmy Smits, being played by Benjamin Bratt. I didn't get a picture of it up. Let me see if I can find a picture of that real quick.
Yeah, no, because I remember I'm watching that scene. I'm like, he looks a little different.
Yeah.
And then again, I just went right back into the scene because the story and the acting and the dialogue and everything was so good. I stopped caring about the bricks and the screws and the haircuts and the recast. And
it's a, it's the thing is, it's not that big of a scene. And so it would be very easy to move past it, in all honesty.
Yeah, and really part of my problem too was I was like scanning the background there to be like, wait, is there a young Leia running around? Is she there? I mean, would she be old enough to go to these parties?
Right? She shouldn't be there. No, but
which is why she would be there.
Which is exactly, yeah, it's exactly why she wouldn't be, or why she would be rather.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Hold on one second. I found it. It. I just have to get the picture open. There we go. All right, there we go. So yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So there is some physical similarities between Benjamin Bratt and Jimmy Smits, and but yeah. So that was he walked up for a scene, and I noticed it right away. Benjamin Bratt is a fantastic actor as well.
Oh yeah.
He did a really good job for years on Law and Order. He's been on a bunch of different things, and yeah, so really cool to see him. I don't know.
Huh. Interesting.
I haven't had time to look it up today.
Okay.
And I just here we go. If I would just read the article. Organa was played by Benjamin Bratt, who took over the role after Jimmy Smits was unable to accommodate the shooting schedule.
Oh, something
Creator
simple.
Tony Gilroy said that the team repeatedly tried to get Smits on set, but at the end of the day, it wasn't possible for the schedules to match up.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate, but yeah, sometimes things happen in the recording areas. And
yeah,
let's see. Granzer says Forrest Whitaker loved playing the crazy man since the King of Scotland. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So yeah, that's he does really good with it, eccentric roles. Forrest Whitaker does. Eccentric. And yeah, absolutely. Jimmy Smits is a great actor. He's done so well in so many things. So I'm glad that they picked up somebody like Benjamin Bratt to make that leap forward, because it's one of those things where I think because there are enough physical similarities, you could easily go back to Jimmy Smits for any future use of Bail Organa. I don't know where we would have another use for Bail Organa in this story, unless we're going to have a more, or at least a live action Bail Organa. If we're going to have a more rebellion growth centric, where we see Mon Mothma and Bail Organa and all these other people actually forming the Rebellion Council, and doing the things moving forward.
Yeah,
I kind of think that maybe we're going to see a little bit of that at the end of this, at the end of this season, because it's supposed to be leading into Rogue One, and in Rogue One we definitely have the formation of the rebellion.
Yes.
So, but all right, back into the slides. Now, we talked earlier about there was a fact that I love the fact that we had the basically the Mon Mothma dance off from Star Wars, and showing how people handle different levels of stress and things. But we also see a dangerous way of dealing with trauma, and that's shown to us with Bix and Spice, and because she's having such vivid nightmares about what the trauma that happened to her in season 1 after her capture, that it's keeping her from sleeping. She's hallucinating. She's having, and that's probably in some direct line related to the spice that she's ingesting as well.
Well, she's still recovering from the trauma of having been captured and tortured, by Dr. Gorsk. Yeah.
We need more Admiral Akbar.
It's a trap.
We can't do that, Granzer. It's a trap.
But so yeah, she's turning to substances to mute out her dreams, so she's not sleepwalking with a blaster and accidentally shooting her boyfriend anymore.
Right. And so because that's the thing, right? I mean, we see her a couple different times sleepwalking through the house, blaster in hand. Cassian had to wrangle it away from her. My question though with this, because Luthen goes and visits Bix.
Yep.
he sees the empty spice on the counter, and then she's talking to him saying, "Give it to me. I need it to sleep." Is he supplying her spice?
No, he's there telling her not to take it. It works for a while, but eventually the nightmares come back worse.
That's what okay, so that's one of my points of confusion in that episode. I was
Yeah.
trying to figure out the line of dialogue because I was watching kind of what was happening, but I wasn't sure if that was Luthen telling Bix, hey, you knock it off, this isn't safe, or he was doing it but giving it to her, but with a cautionary tale of, here's the spice, but hey, this isn't going to work forever. That's how I took it.
Yeah, I took it as like maybe he had some personal experience with the same substance, trying to deal with his own nightmares, and just letting her know, hey, I'm not your dad. I can't tell you no, but this is going to mess you up in the long run.
Right. Okay. No, that makes sense. Like I said, I don't know. I kind of got confused just because he had it in the palm of his hand. She was like, "Give it to me. I need it." And I thought it was empty, and then there was a full one. So
yeah,
probably one of those things I need to go back and rewatch.
But he also knows that she's been dealing with stuff.
Yes,
because he keeps an eye on his agents. He knows what they've been through, what they're capable of. So he knows that Bix has some pretty heavy trauma.
Right.
From last season and earlier this season.
Correct. Yeah, because although certain other Star Wars creators don't think it should ever have been shown, she was nearly sexually assaulted. But yeah. And that is also going to do nothing but add to the trauma that she was already experiencing, and then finding a way to deal with that and move forward through her traumas. So anyway, but speaking of her traumas, perhaps one of my favorite scenes in this whole set of episodes.
When she pulled the blaster, I'm like, no, you can't just kill him. You can't just... and then she does this.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, oh, come on, that's the easy way out. Don't just shoot him. And then apparently we both prefer torture as revenge. And she puts him through what he put her through.
Same chair, same screaming children playback.
The headpiece, everything.
Yeah. Just like the poetry of that. And so this is what I like about this show is they don't hand you every detail.
Right.
Lonnie gets, is informed that, Gorsk is being handed off to the Navy. And then a few minutes later, we see this happening. We don't get him going to Luthen going to Cassian and Bix, handing off the assignment. We get to fill in those blanks. We get to realize that, stuff happened on screen that we didn't see, which is just good storytelling.
Right. I think it's nice. Yeah. If you're not spoon-fed every detail, it allows your imagination to go with the story, see what's happening, kind of make guesstimations or estimations of what happened, why, where the story's headed. Kind of helps fill in the blanks a little bit, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that she set that thing up, put the helmet on his head, and turned around and walked out the door. Yep. The only time she fired the blaster was at that one poor unfortunate fool was like, wait a minute, you're not supposed to be here.
It was just like from the hip, just about, not even a real thought, just reflex. But you can see, like, in how she's walking through, when she does that she's not, her shoulders are back, her back is straight, her head is up, she's got her confidence back, she's retaken her life.
Yes.
Luthen has given her a job to deal with her trauma so she doesn't have to rely on the chemicals anymore.
Correct.
And then Cassian pushes the button and everything goes boom.
She does the reverse trauma, shoots the bad guy. Cassian pushes the button for the boom booms. And the only thing I was kind of hoping that we would see when the explosion went off, I was kind of hoping we see a little smirk out of Bix, like, yep, it's about time that happened. But I get that too.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, this was a thing they needed to do because, as was explained earlier to Lonnie, the Emperor had taken notice of the Doctor's methods and wanted to expand them.
Yes.
So this was really just kind of, we can't let that program happen. And
Yeah,
it's your way.
it was preventative maintenance for a very large degree.
There you go.
Preventative maintenance. So we also in these batch of episodes got to see a couple other characters that we saw from Rogue One, and we see Director Krennic has a pretty good role. He's actually kind of intimidating in this episode.
Yeah, a little bit.
Because I didn't take him as intimidating. By the time we see him in Rogue One, I see him as more of a blustering, bumbling, overlooked, not a buffoon, but he's a guy who's so eager for attention and eager for accreditation that he's willing to do whatever, wherever, however, so that he can get, and you'll tell the Emperor as much, he's seeking that affirmation. Yeah. But in this episode, he seems much more definitive about his words, his actions. Ben Mendelsohn is a great actor, and he plays his character so very well. Yeah. But I just thought that just the way that he was talking about the Gorman massacre and the way that he's talking about all the things that happened, he's just like, yeah.
And him being in the room with Mon Mothma, because they both know the other person is their adversary, but it's on a battlefield they can't talk about.
Yeah. There's a stress and a strain there.
Yeah. And I mean, that stress and strain is only added to by what's going on in the background with the listening device and move to the left so you block their view. Like I was starting to sweat during that scene.
I was getting nervous for him because and I couldn't find a good image of that, but they're standing at that piece, and you run your fingers through the grooves, and that's how you read the story, because almost like a alien braille is kind of like I saw it as. And I love this character. Yes. The more that she's on screen, the more I'm like, I love, because she doesn't take any crap from Luthen, and I love that. It's like if my daughter was a Star Wars character, it would be right here.
I was thinking the same thing, actually.
And she's very self-assured, very positive. This is who I am. This is what I'm doing. And yeah, so it's kind of interesting. Let's see. I love the photo shoots with Ben Mendelsohn in the uniform. I wish I had a poster of them. Yeah, just pure gold. Yeah. Mendelsohn is such a great actor. He's been in so many good shows, and he gives a lot like Forrest Whitaker. He adds a lot of gravity to the scenes that he's in. You're paying attention to what Krennic is saying and what Krennic is doing, and maybe it's because we know where he's going with Rogue One, what's happening, all these things. But I also think that some of it is just because of the acting chops of Mendelsohn. You're paying attention to what he's doing and why.
Yeah.
There's also a couple really cool theories out there about this character, whose name I want to say it's not Kayla, but it's KL, I think.
Let me look it up just to make sure we get it right. Continue.
Yeah, get it. But I saw a theory today that believes that she is Cassian Andor's long lost sister.
That would be kind of cool.
And neither one of them are aware of it.
Huh.
Which would actually make sense, because Star Wars does a lot with separation of families, finding families, found family, all these different things, and then a reunification of families at one point.
Clea. Her name is Clea.
Clea. Thank you. Yeah, I like Clea. Absolutely, Granger. You want to hear what Krennic is going to say next? Absolutely. The scenes are done so well that you're sitting there in anticipation, because he holds the scene so well. Now, the other theory that I heard, and it was very loose and not very well executed or fulfilled, is that Clea has a tie to the Acolyte. That's that's all I can give you, because that's pretty. It was like I said, I saw it in passing. Let me see if I can find it again real quick. But
Interesting.
yeah,
I mean, that'd be quite the jump.
it could be.
I don't think Gilroy would do that intentionally. Somebody might do it after the fact, but maybe.
Let's see. Here it is.
You found it?
So people and the people are, despite being Luthen Rail's assistant, a lot of people are also feeling that maybe she is what ISB calls access and the real person in charge behind the scenes. That she's the one pulling the strings, and
Interesting.
yeah. All right, I can't find it, but it was just kind of one of those things I saw in passing. I was like, oh, but there's people saying that what we see here with Clea is going to become more and more prevalent, more and more important, because she's going to have, especially in the last 6 episodes, she is going to have a lot more to talk for us to talk about.
Yeah.
Then that she becomes a much more critical character in the last 6 episodes.
Okay. And
that part of that is because of her backstory that has not been explored yet. So, whether that's tied to the Acolyte, that's tied to Cassian Andor, and I'm kind of hoping that it's just something that's neither one of those things.
Yeah,
I think it's cool that she could be Cassian's long lost sister, but I think the story is better served if Cassian doesn't have family. I think the story is better served because by the time we get to Rogue One, he talks about having to have given up so much. He's given up everything. He's lost everything.
Right.
Unless he again finds his sister and then somehow loses Clea. So, which could be possible too.
Yeah.
Because
life doesn't always tie up in nice, neat little bows. So it might not go anywhere. I hope it does.
Right. And it might just be a storyline and just kind of left out there. But as we know, people do die in Star Wars, and we do say goodbye to Cinta, all because the Gorman's People Front, or the People's Front of Gorman, whichever way you decide to go with that, can't follow rules, and this is where Cassian, I believe, was so I don't want to do this, is because these guys have never had to follow instructions, have never had to follow rules,
because it was. These 2 people have blasters. Nobody else does.
Nobody else. And then the one dude who was lookout in the back decided to pull a gun.
Yeah.
And got into a tussle. And as things happen when you tussle, sometimes the tussle leads into getting your booger finger on the bang switch. And yeah. Rule number 1 of guns, kids. Don't put your booger finger on the bang switch until you're ready to pull the trigger.
Right. And I mean, this was hard because, Vel and Cinta
had just reunited too.
Yeah, they were just getting along again after being separated for so long. And, and there's that little bit about, Cinta had an accident. We don't know what it was.
Mm-hmm. No clue.
That's a story for another time. Maybe. Might be a comic book. Might be something in a novel. We don't know.
And maybe it'll just be overlooked completely. It might not need explanation, but that's definitely part of the story for this, is that so part of the reason why they were separated for that year or longer was that she was recovering. She admits that she handled it poorly and that she could have been there with Val, but chose not to so that she could heal.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things going on to the point of them getting back together. And then of course,
doofus
pulls the trigger and shoots her right above the heart, or right in the heart. I'm not sure.
Yeah. And this was fatal because it wasn't a lightsaber stab.
I was just about to say that. She did not have the plot armor, and it wasn't a lightsaber. So, but yeah, I do, boy, I almost felt bad for that guy for a couple of minutes. And then Val started dressing him down on the
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah. That dude had to be about yay tall by the time this was all said and done, because she's like, you will never forget this. You will never outlive this. You will always have this burden.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, yeah, he didn't listen to rules and laws and couldn't follow orders and ended up killing somebody who didn't deserve to die. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's hard.
Yeah.
But
so it was kind of interesting. So we see, one of the things we did not talk about, and I just want to hit back on this real quick, is that when Cyril comes back to Coruscant, Deidre like, turn off the lights. And he's like, yeah, but there's the thing. And she's like, turn off the lights. She got really bossy. And he's like, yes, ma'am. Click. But not only that, she's like, you get an hour here. And he's like, I was safe. Nobody followed me. She's like, I know. How do you know? Because my people followed you.
You get 1 hour. Turn off the lights.
Yeah. And if you don't know what that's about, go talk to your moms and dads and they'll be able to explain it to you.
I have a story for after the show. Anyway.
I bet you do. But one of the biggest endings or the thing that we're going to end on, short of John had something he wanted to circle back to about storytelling.
Yes.
Is this slide here. We see Mon in the Senate and the burdens that she's bearing because of this, the feelings that she's having because of everything that she sees going on, the swearing in of new senators, the way that the Galactic Empire is cracking down on things, and the way that there's the misrepresentation of the Gormans and who they are and what they are, and all this evil propaganda that's going out. And you can see the pain in her face. The pain is so very clear. Genevieve Riley does a really good job at this. I mean, she's another amazing. They've casted this show so just perfectly well. But Genevieve Riley does a really good job at this and making you understand that the pain that Mon was going through, and when the suffering that internally that she's having, trying to walk two very distinct lines properly, because she's got this Empire line. She has to be careful what she's doing, but she's also trying to help people over here on the rebellion. And these two things are running parallel, but very, very distinct as to their trajectories and which way they're going and how this is all going to play out. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition of what's going on in her life versus what is going to be happening in her life, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't put as much emphasis on that. I appreciate that. That's cool. Some cool insights.
Yeah, and so I think that then what we're going to see here, and I'm hoping that what we're going to see here is in the next 6 episodes, is really that formation of the rebellion that we see, and that we will see more of Bail Organa in this series, and how this takes off and gets us to the point of Rogue One.
Yeah.
And everything that happens there. And yeah, so I'm kind of curious.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious. But yeah, I'll take this off the screen for a minute and then we'll hit the last slide in a second. All right, so tell me, my main man, Jonathan.
So
what are you thinking?
I've been watching Star Wars my whole life. I mean, my mom took me to see Empire when I was like 14 months old. Okay. I sat on her lap in the theater, trying to steal popcorn that I probably couldn't have eaten at that time anyway. But so, I grew up with Star Wars. It's always been there.
Sure.
But she hasn't kept up with stuff since, the 80s. And she was asking me, so what's this Andor show that you're talking about? What's it, I'm like, well, it's about this guy and the rebels and yada, yada. She's like, well, how much do I need to know before I start watching it? And I thought about it for a second. I'm like, you don't really, because none of it's really dependent on other sources. It stands on its own as a good story. And I mean, all good movies, all good shows can do that. You don't need to have watched 17 other movies or 43 and 16 different TV shows to enjoy a well-told story. You know,
Right.
even the original 6 Star Wars movies, each one can be watched on its own, and you don't really have to worry about it. Even the sequel trilogy, really. I mean, you can jump into any one of them and be like, oh, they just told me that guy's name. You know,
Right.
It's great. And I really appreciate that, because there was a video from like 14 years ago where this film critic was ripping apart episode 3 for not, having these little plot holes and inconsistencies and stuff. And somebody recently decided to go online and react to that 14-year-old video for reasons, and was like, well, yeah, but if you read this book and you watch that cartoon and you've read these comic books, that all makes sense. You shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't have to have all of these outside sources to have your 2-hour movie make sense. And Tony Gilroy is an awesome example of that.
Yeah.
I mean, even The Acolyte, you didn't need to know all the rest of Star Wars for that.
No, you can sit down and just plug in and watch.
Yeah, so it's a great entry point. And that's what everything could be. That it can all be somebody's first experience. So you don't want to weigh it down with too much stuff. I think that's something we've lost track of, as nerds in general, with how many dozens of hours of the MCU are there, and how many hundreds of hours of Star Wars is there now. And, it's just great to have this story that just stands on its own, that I can just be like, hey, watch this. You don't need to know anything else, but this will tell you what this is like.
No, I agree with you. I do enjoy that that's one of the things I do enjoy about the majority of Star Wars, is that it doesn't take a lot of other background information. I do enjoy the fact that each show and movie informs itself enough with other things that if you've at least seen one of the other things, your mind can make that leap of, oh, this guy was in that movie too. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. But you don't really even have to have that. So I do appreciate that as well. And I agree. I think that I really do think that Tony Gilroy is doing such a phenomenal job with this, and the way that he's crafting this story. This is my own personal gauge.
Okay.
If at the end of the week's episode, if I'm ready to sit there and keep watching, and I'm like, oh God, I wish there was more right now. That's how I feel every week with Andor.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt last season with every episode of Andor. Was, oh my God, I need more. Can we have more? Can we have more right now? Is it next Tuesday already? And that's how I felt all of last season. That's really how I feel this season too. Yeah. Is I feel like we have some really, really good storytelling. Now we'll contrast that to The Acolyte. I felt that way the majority of the time. There were a couple episodes in The Acolyte where I was like, yeah, I think I'm good for the rest of the night. Okay, I can go to bed now.
Except for yelling at that it was an only 20-minute episode when you had an hour free. And that's another thing. These are consistent run times.
Holy crap. Got the memo. 12 episodes and consistent run times. Much better. Thank you.
Yeah. And we're getting like a 2.25 hour Star Wars movie every week for a month.
Yeah, it's great.
That's amazing.
It's great. I'm freaking loving it.
Me in the like late 90s, mid 2000s, I would have given certain body parts for this kind of stuff.
Right?
Especially the left one. I don't know why it's always the left one, but
it's always the left one. Poor lefty. Always left. Always ostracized out in the cold.
Yep.
But yeah, so anything else before we move on to our final goodbyes and thoughts?
I'm sad the season's half over already, but I'm really excited about the next 2 weeks, because if this is how good it is halfway through, what's the end? Because we know the end goes straight into Rogue One, and Rogue One goes straight into Episode 4.
So here's my only qualm about this.
I
both love and hate the 3-episode breaks every week.
Okay.
I love the fact that I'm getting more Star Wars, because we're Star Wars, and it's awesome. But I also kind of wish that I had 12 weeks of Star Wars instead of 4 weeks of Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, more Star Wars is always a good thing. Like, I mean, even with Cinta talking about her accident, well, what's that? We might get more Star Wars from it.
Right. So, yeah, it's not a huge complaint,
Mm-hmm.
but I very much wish that, but I also understand why he's doing it, because this is 3 BBY and what's happening here and why it's so important. This was 4 BBY, and here's the 3 episodes that go into that. And so we're getting a countdown up to,
Okay.
you just had a realization of something.
Well, no, we're talking about more Star Wars and stuff, so I decided to look at, and this weekend we get Tales of the Underworld.
Oh, yeah, that comes on,
that's
on
May
Sunday.
4th. On May 4th, on Star Wars Day, we get Tales of the Underworld.
Yes.
More Star Wars.
Which I'm also very excited about. And I think we'll probably do a little review on that one as well, because it's just the 6 episodes. They're all shorts, but yeah.
Yeah, you can do that on Monday.
Kathleen says, sorry, got distracted, had to feed the gecko, then found out the dog is afraid of it. The dog's afraid of everything.
No, the dog is big and vicious and terrifies everybody. Don't tell people my dog's a scaredy cat.
It's a pit bull. It's a pitiful pit bull. It's scared of its own shadow.
She's a pickle.
She's a big sweetie. She really is. I love her. But so hey, guys, if you haven't tuned into Legitimately Afraid of the Leopard Gecko,
she doesn't know what it is. She's never seen one before. She doesn't know what a reptile is. She's lived around mammals her whole life.
Oh, I love it. Climbed on your mom's lap shaking until I put Harold in his tank.
Is mom okay?
All right, guys. Hey, if you haven't watched Andor yet, this is you need to. If you haven't finished season 1, finish season 1. Watch the Kino Loy's speech at the end. It's just it's perfect. It's an amazing show. Watch season 1. Goes in so well into season 2, and I can't recommend it enough. It's not Yard Spaghetti, so she's not sure what to do.
Right. I forgot about snakes.
Yeah. And yes, your mom is fine. But so yes, but today's Thursday, so I gotta get my days right. Yesterday morning we released our interview with Justin Cabanting, a really nice guy, really cool actor. What in the world?
What?
You over there throwing up gang signs. Saw that out of the corner of my eye.
It's like, what day is it? How many days until? Okay, so there's 2 and 2, so that makes 4.
Yeah, I had to do the math in my head there a little bit. But we talked with Justin Cabanting, really cool actor. He's been on Star Wars Skeleton Crew. He's been on Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi. He does some voice work in Fortnite and a few other things. He's also a stuntman, and he's done some work with Michelle C. Smith, who we've interviewed in the past, and she is just a badass with a blade. And and Justin goes in and talks about his work, how he approaches what he does, why he does what he does, and really why Star Wars is so very important to him. And he's also a member of his local 501st and teaches lightsaber classes. He's just a cool dude. So yeah, check that out on anywhere you get your audio podcast, whether that be Spotify, Apple, or our recommendation is Good Pods. Good Pods has been very good pods to us, and I couldn't help myself. I needed to, but I couldn't. But yeah, they've been really, really great to work with, and we are consistently in the top 3 to 5 on both comedy fiction and science fiction of all time on Good Pods. And so yeah, go check us out on there. And yeah, but you can also, of course, watch it here on YouTube. It's a really cool interview, and I want to bring Justin back for a couple live shows and some other things. He's just a fun guy, and he's got some. Yeah, I think we might. I'm gonna try and see if I know he plays D&D, so I'm gonna see if I can get him for the RPG. I think he'd be a lot of fun. So, I mean, what's one more time zone to try and work into our scheduling? I mean, we've already got Mountain and whatever Alaskan time. Why not throw in some Pacific too? So it'll be fine. It'll be fine. That's what I keep telling myself. But yeah, so that's it, guys. That is the end of the madness for tonight. And yeah. Any final thoughts, final words, any goodbyes before I say goodbye?
Not really. Just looking forward to next week. Look
Same
forward to this
here.
weekend now.
Is Justin a Lions fan? I don't know. We actually did not talk about football.
Are you dying?
Still have to get Sabrina Lloyd on to interview. We will try.
Okay.
We will try. And
yeah, I got these when I had shoulder surgery because it's a lot easier to get my arm in and out. Big puffy sleeves. So yeah.
And he just likes it.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to admit it, but he's comfortable in it.
I've gotten used to the ducky shirts. The ducky shirts are my friends.
Exactly. All right, guys, that's going to be it for us tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Please click on the show links down below for our show sponsors. Get 10% off on your coffee at Bones Coffee Company. Get 15% off your cool merch, nerdy merch at Idea Farm. And of course, go buy a lightsaber that's better than a stick, because those guys support us just like you guys support us. Major underarm action. He wears it well. All right, guys, on that note, may the force continue to be with you as you live long and prosper. Goodbye.
Copyright 2025 FSF Podcast. Reference to any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by FSF Podcast. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@fsfpodcast.com.